16. Ch. 10. 21. By his course and actions he says, in effect, there is no Jehovah. PS 14. 1-3 and leaves him out of the picture. Not being guided by divine principles, he cannot judge matters correctly, see the issues clearly, evaluate the factors involved, and arrive at right decisions. PR 28. 5. Fields of human understanding. Understanding may relate to knowledge and skill in mechanical activities, such as construction and designing of buildings or the making of articles of wood, metal, stone, or cloth. The Tyrian worker Hiram was a skillful man, experienced in understanding as a craftsman working with a wide range of materials. 2ch2. 13, 14. 1 Chi 7. 13, 14. Such understanding contributes to effective work, resulting in products of enduring quality. Others may be expert form of bin in matters of transportation or music due to their understanding. 1ch 15. 22. 25. 7, 8. 2ch 34. 12. Some may show understanding in linguistics, writing, or other scholarly subjects. Dar 1. 4, 17, 20. Such understanding can be gained through natural abilities and effort. Of course, God's Spirit can augment, or enhance, such understanding in persons, and qualify them to teach others their craft or profession. X 31. 2-5. 35. 30-35. 36. 1. 1ch 28. 19. Some may have keen discernment of human nature, being observant and able to put two and two together. David, noting the way his servants were whispering, discerned that his child by Bathsheba had died. 2:12. 19. Hobone was guided by his understanding of fallen human nature and its tendency toward envy and jealousy when assigning his sons inheritances. 2ch 11. 21-23. Similarly, men or communities of men may show considerable discernment in business operations, a factor in their successfully enriching themselves, as did the leader of Tyre. As 28. 2. 4. Rulers may have understanding of military warfare and strategy as 10. 12, 13. Or be expert in o texto e acute miritra longo, understanding 1140 by the quantity and quality of one's knowledge. Knowledge is acquaintance with facts, and the greatest and most fundamental facts relate to God, His existence, His invincible purpose, His ways. Understanding enables the person to relate the knowledge he acquires to God's purpose and standards, and thereby he can assess or evaluate such knowledge. The understanding heart is one that searches for knowledge. It is not satisfied with a mere superficial view, but seeks to get the full picture. PR 15. 14. Knowledge must become pleasant to one's very soul if discernment is to safeguard one from perversion and deception. PR 2. 10, 11. 18. 15. See knowledge. Proverbs 1. 1-6 shows that the man of understanding is the one who acquires skillful direction, to understand a proverb and a puzzling saying, the words of wise persons and their riddles. These must not be things said merely to pass the time away in idle conversation, for wise persons would not customarily waste time in such manner, but must refer to instruction, questions, and problems that discipline and train the mind and heart in right principles, thereby equipping the learner for wise action in the future. Compare PS 49. 3, 4. Knowledge and understanding together bring wisdom, which is the prime thing, the ability to bring a fund of knowledge and keen understanding to bear on problems with successful results. PR 4. 7. The person who is rightly motivated seeks understanding, not out of mere curiosity or to exalt himself, but for the very purpose of acting in wisdom. Wisdom is before his face. PR 17. 24. See wisdom. He is not like those in the Apostle Paul's day who assumed to be teachers of others but were puffed up with pride, not understanding anything, unwisely letting themselves become mentally diseased over questionings and debates about words, things that produce disunity and a host of bad results. 1t6. 3-5. Gaining true understanding. The person seeking true understanding prays to God. Make me understand, that I may observe your law, and that I may keep it with the whole heart. That I may keep living. PS 119. 34, 144, also 27, 73, 125, 169. This is the right motive. The apostle prayed that the Colossian Christians might be filled with the accurate knowledge of God's will in all wisdom and spiritual comprehension. See middle.ne say, in order to walk worthily of Jehovah. Col 1. 9, 10. Age and experience are natural factors that can help one to develop greater understanding. Job 12. 12. Age and experience alone are not the decisive factors, however. Job's comforters prided themselves on the understanding they and their aged associates had, but they were approved by the younger man Elihu. Job 15. 7-10. 32. 6-12. Jehovah, the Ancient of Days. 7. 13. Has understanding infinitely superior to that of all mankind, whose days cover only a few thousand years, and who do not even understand just how the planet they live on came to be formed. Job 38. 4-13, 21. Hence, God's written word is a principal means for gaining understanding. PS 119. 130. Children and young persons should thoughtfully consider the instruction of their older and more experienced parents, particularly so when these are devoted servants of God. PR 2. 1-5. 3. 1-3. 4. 1. 5. 1. Serious consideration. Heb. Being of the history of earlier generations can bring understanding, and older persons are often familiar with this. 32. 7. Association should be sought, not with inexperienced ones, but with the wise, feeding on their counsel and instruction so as to keep living, and walk straight in the way of understanding. PR 9. 5, 6. Listening and also observing, the person can cease to be naive and credulous, can understand shrewdness, and can avoid many bitter experiences. PR 8. 4, 5. Diligence in studying and applying God's word and commands can enable a person to have greater insight than those set as his teachers. O text to acute muritra longo. Ur 1141. Keep quiet. PR 11. 12. Does not speak rashly, and keeps cool even though the discussion may become heated. PR 14. 29. 17. 27, 28. 19. 11. Job 32. 11, 18. Compare Judges 3. 13-18. He meditates on counsel so as to determine the significance of the words and message. Job 23. 5. PS 49. 3. He asks questions aimed at discerning the whys and wherefores so he can determine the cause of success or failure, divine blessing or cursing. He ponders the logical future consequences to which each course will lead. PS 73. 2, 3, 16-18. Ch 2. 10-19. Compare Isra 44. 14-20. Israel failed to do this and did not give consideration in their hearts as to what would be their end afterward. 32. 28-30. Accept discipline. Pride, stubbornness, self-will, and independence are enemies of understanding. J 4. 22. Ho 4. 14, 16. The person with true understanding does not think he knows everything. Hence Proverbs 19. 25 says, there should be a approving of the understanding one, that he may discern knowledge. Compare Job 6. 24, 25. PS 19. 12, 13. Because he is an understanding person, he is ready to listen, discerns the basis for the reproof, and benefits by it more than a stupid one would from 100 strokes. PR 17. 10. Compare 29. 19. Understanding prophecy. Inspired prophetic messages are understood only by those cleansed ones who humbly pray for understanding. Dar 9. 22, 23. 10. 12. 12. 10. Though the general time period of their fulfillment may be comprehended, full discernment of the prophecy's application may have to await God's due time for its being carried out. 8. 17. 10. 14. 12. 8-10. Compare Mr. 9. 31, 32. Lu 24. 44-48. Those placing their confidence in men and disdaining God's power and discounting his purpose as a factor worth considering cannot understand the prophecies, and they remain blind to their significance until the disastrous effects of their fulfillment begin to hit them. PS 50. 21, 22. Isra 28. 19. 46. 10-12. Undeserved kindness. See kindness. Unfermented cakes, festival of. See festival of unfermented cakes. Unknown God. Part of an inscription on an altar seen by the Apostle Paul while at Athens. The Athenians expressed their fear of deities by building many temples and altars. They even went so far as to deify the abstract, erecting altars to fame, modesty, energy, persuasion, and pity. Perhaps fearing that they might possibly omit a god and thereby incur that one's disfavor, the men of Athens had erected an altar inscribed with the words, "To an unknown god." At the outset in his discourse to the Stoics, Epicureans, and others assembled at the Areopagus Mars Hill, Paul tactfully drew their attention to this altar, telling them that it was this god, heretofore unknown to them, about whom he was preaching. Acts 17. 18, 19, 22-34. That altars of this nature existed in Greece is testified to by the Greek writers Philostratus 170. 245 CE and Pausanias 2nd century CE. Pausanias mentions altars of gods named unknown. Description of Greece, Attica I, for Philostratus, in his work The Life of Apollonius of Chiana 6, 3, writes, "It is a much greater proof of wisdom and sobriety to speak well of all the gods, especially at Athens, where altars are set up in honor even of unknown gods." Unni. 1. Levite musician who played a stringed instrument in the procession that brought the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem. 1 ch 15. 3, 16, 18, 20. 2. Apostolic Levite assigned to guard duty under High Priest Jeshua. Ne 12. 1, 9. Unrighteous riches. See riches. Up as Euphas. A presently unidentified location where gold was found in ancient times. 10. 9. 10. 5. Upper room. See house. 1. Light. Father of Eliphal, one of the mighty men of David's military forces. 1 ch 11. 26, 35 appears to be the same person as Ahasbai. 2 ch 23. 34. 2. Ur of the Chaldeans, the city in Mesopotamia where Abraham's brother Haran, and likely Otextoi acute Muritra longo, Urbanus 1142 long, 46 meters wide, and 21 meters high 200 by 150 by 70 feet. Picture, Volume 2, p. 322. Though at present the Euphrates River runs about 16 kilometers 10 mi of the site of Ur, evidence indicates that in ancient times the Euphrates ran just W of the city. Historian and geographer Henri Gorbut, in his book Abraham, Loved by God, stated, "At the time of Abram the three great rivers Karun, Tigris and Euphrates flowed into the waters of the Persian Gulf by three separate estuaries." It is well to point out here the site of the city of Ur. On the left east bank of the Euphrates. The Hebrew tribe of Abram, originating in the city-state of Ur, could, in consequence, be perfectly correctly designated by the phrase "the people from beyond the river." 1968, p. 8. Also, a revised and updated edition of Sir Leonard Woolley's excavations at Ur shows that the Euphrates was definitely W of Ur. Speaking of Ur's defenses, it states, This massive fortification was further strengthened by the fact that the river Euphrates, as can be seen from the sunken line of its old bed, washed the foot of the western rampart, while 50 yards from the foot of the eastern rampart there had been dug a broad canal which left the river immediately above the north end of the town, so that on 3 sides Ur was ringed with a moat. Ur of the Chaldees, by P.R.S. Moore, 1982, p. 138. Thus it can be appropriately stated that Jehovah took Abraham from the other side of the river, that is, the Euphrates. Jos 24. 3. In royal tombs at Ur, excavators have found many objects of gold, silver, lapis lazuli, and other costly materials, as well as indications that early Sumerian kings and queens of the city were buried with their retinue of male and female servants. Ruins of what appear to be private houses excavated at Ur, suggested by some as belonging to the period between the 20th and 16th centuries BCE, show that they were constructed of brick, were plastered and whitewashed, and had 13 or 14 rooms surrounding a paved courtyard. Among clay tablets found at the site were some used to teach cuneiform writing. Other tablets indicate that students there had multiplication and division tables and worked at square and cube roots. Many of the tablets are business documents. From excavations at Ur, it thus appears clear that Abraham made notable material sacrifices when leaving that city. But, in faith, the patriarch was awaiting the city having real foundations, the builder and maker of which city is God. Heb 11. 8-10. Urbanus Ur middle. Bienus from Lat. Meaning refined. Elegant. A Roman Christian greeted in Paul's letter. Row 16. 9. The name is found frequently in inscriptions of Caesar's household, but the record is silent as to whether this Urbanus was an imperial servant. Uri from a root meaning light. 1. A descendant of Judah through Perez, Hezron, Caleb, and Hur. Uri's son Bezalel was a noted tabernacle craftsman. X 31. 2. 35. 30. 38. 22. 1 ch 2. 4, 5, 9, 18-20. 2 ch 1. 5. 2. Father of Jeba, who was one of Solomon's food deputies. 1 Chi 4. 7, 19. 3. One of the 3 Levite gatekeepers who sent away their foreign wives and sons as a result of Ezra's counsel. As 10. 10, 11, 24, 44. Uriah middle. Re'amilite is Jehovah. 1. The Hittite husband of Bathsheba. Uriah was one of David's foreign warriors. 2 Sa 23. 39. 1 ch 11. 41. His words, conduct, marriage to a Jewess, and residence in Jerusalem close to the king's palace all suggest that he adopted the worship of Jehovah God as a circumcised proselyte. 2 Sa 11. 3, 6-11. While Uriah was engaged in the battle against Ammon at Rabbah, David committed adultery with his wife Bathsheba, about which Uriah never learned. David then sent and had Uriah come to Jerusalem, whereupon the king asked him about the progress of the war and sent him out to go to his home so that his wife's child might appear to be Uriah's. However, Uriah refused text to acute Muritra longo. Urim and Thummim 11:43-3. Father of Micaiah, who was the wife of King Hobom and mother of Abijah. 2 ch 13. 1, 2. 11. 21. Maacah was Absalom's granddaughter. Since Absalom's 3 sons apparently died young and childless. 2 Sa 14. 27. 18. 18. Micaiah must have been the child of Absalom's daughter Tamar and of Uriel, not the son of Absalom, but the son-in-law. Urijah middle. Re'amilite is Jehovah. 1. A priest during the reign of King Ahaz of Judah 761-746 BCE. When Ahaz went to Damascus to offer tribute to Tiglath-Pileser III, he sent Urijah the design and pattern of the great altar he saw there and told him to build one like it, later instructing him to use it instead of Jehovah's altar. Urijah complied. 2 Chi 16. 8-16. Uriah also witnessed a writing of Isaiah. Issa 8. 1, 2. Though not so identified, he was presumably high priest, in view of his importance in the absence of any other person so titled at this time. 2. A prophet of Jehovah, son of Shammah from Kiriath Jearim. During the reign of Jehoiakim, Urijah prophesied against Judah and Jerusalem just as Jeremiah did. However, when Urijah learned that Jehoiakim sought his death, he fled to Egypt, but he was brought back and slain, his body being cast into a common graveyard. Jah 26. 20-23. 3. Son of Hakos. A priest whose son Mamuth was one of the priests in whose care Ezra entrusted the gold and silver and temple vessels brought to Jerusalem. Urijah's son Mamuth later helped to repair Jerusalem's wall. Ezra 8. 33. Eni 3. 4, 21. Urim and Thummim. Objects used to ascertain the divine will when questions of national importance needed an answer from Jehovah. As recorded at Leviticus 8. 8. Moses, after placing the breastpiece upon Aaron, put the Urim and the Thummim in the breastpiece. While the Hebrew preposition here translated and can be rendered upon, the same word is used at Exodus 25. 16 in speaking of placing the 2 stone tablets in the Ark of the Covenant. X 31. 18 Some have proposed the suggestion that the Urim and the Thummim were the 12 stones affixed to the breastpiece. That it was not the case is shown by the fact that, in the priestly inauguration ceremony, the completed breastpiece with the 12 stones sewn on it, was put upon Aaron, and then the Urim and Thummim were put in it. Also, a comparison of Exodus 28. 9, 12, 30 refutes the theory that they consisted of the 2 onyx stones on the shoulder pieces of the high priest's ephod. X 28. 9-14 They evidently were separate objects. Their use. It is notable that the Urim and the Thummim were to be over Aaron's heart when he went in before Jehovah, doubtless referring to Aaron's standing in the holy before the curtain to the most holy compartment when inquiring of Jehovah. Their location, over Aaron's heart, would appear to indicate that the Urim and the Thummim were placed in the fold, or pouch, formed by the doubled construction of the breastpiece. They were for the judgments of the sons of Israel and were used when a question of importance to the national leaders and consequently to the nation itself needed an answer from Jehovah. Jehovah, Israel's lawgiver, would give an answer to the high priest as to the right course to pursue in any matter. X 28. 30. David called upon Abiathar to employ the Urim and the Thummim when Abiathar, after escaping the slaughter of the priests of Nob in which his father died, came to David with the ephod. Apparently it was the ephod of the high priest. 1 Sir 22. 19, 20. 23. 6-15. May have been lots. From the instances recorded in the scriptures in which Jehovah was consulted by Urim and Thummim, it appears that the question was so framed that a yes or no answer, or at least a very brief and direct reply, could be given. In one instance 1 Sir 28. 6 The Urim is mentioned alone, evidently with the Thummim also understood to be included. A number of Bible commentators believe O textoi acute miritra longo utensils 1144 served to link kingdom with priesthood. The Aaronic priesthood is referred to in Deuteronomy 33. 8-10, which says, Your Thummim and your Urim belong to the man loyal to you. The reference to these as belonging to the man loyal to you Jehovah perhaps alludes to the loyalty of the tribe of Levi from which the Aaronic priesthood came that was demonstrated in connection with the incident of the golden calf. X 32. 25-29. Jehovah wisely provided the Urim and the Thummim and placed them in the hands of the high priest. This made the king dependent to great extent on the priesthood, avoiding the concentration of too much power in the hands of the king. It brought about the necessity of cooperation between the kingship and the priesthood. New 27. 18-21 Jehovah made known his will to Israel by his written word, also by prophets and by dreams. But it seems that prophets and dreams were used for special occasions, whereas the high priest with the Urim and the Thummim was always present with the people. Use ceased in 607 BCE according to Jewish tradition. Use of the Urim and the Thummim ceased when Jerusalem was desolated and her temple destroyed in 607 BCE by the Babylonian armies under King Nebuchadnezzar. Babylonian Talmud, Sotha 48b This view is supported by what we read regarding these objects in the books of Ezra and Nehemiah. There, certain men who were claimants to priestly descent, but who could not find their names in the public register, were told that they could not eat from the most holy things provided for the priesthood until a priest stood up with Urim and Thummim. but there is no record of their use at that time, and thereafter the Bible makes no further reference to these sacred objects. As to 61-63 NE 7 63-65 Greater High Priest consults Jehovah. Jesus Christ is described in Paul's letter to the Hebrews as the great king priest according to the manner of Melchizedek. Hope 6 19, 20 7 1-3 In him kingship and priesthood are combined. His priestly work was foreshadowed by that of the high priest of ancient Israel. Hope 8 3-5 9 6-12 All judgment of mankind is committed into his hands as such a high priest. Job 5 22 Nevertheless, when on earth Jesus declared, "The things I say to you men I do not speak of my own originality, but the Father who remains in union with me is doing his works." Job 14 10 And I do nothing of my own initiative, but just as the Father taught me I speak these things. Job 8 28 Also, he said, "If I do judge, my judgment is truthful, because I am not alone, but the Father who sent me is with me." Job 8 16 Certainly in his exalted heavenly position, perfected as high priest forever, he continues in this course of subjection to his Father, looking to him for guidance in judgment. Job 7 28 Compare 1 Co 11 3 15 27 28 Utensils. The Hebrew term kli is very broad in its application and can refer to articles ge 24 53 x3 22 la 13 49 52 57-59 15 4 6 Implements ge 27 3 Goods ge 31 37 Receptacles ge 42 25 43 11 Equipment ge 45 20 Instruments ge 49 5 1 ch 15 16 Furnishings x 25 9 Utensils x 25 39 27 3 19 30 27 28 31 7-9 Vessels la 6 28 11 32-34 Gabda 22 5 Weapons jg 9 54 18 11 16 17 Luggage 1 10 22 Baggage 1 17 22 Bags 1 17 40 49 Organisms 1 21 5 and Tools 1 Chi 6 7 Often kli designates the various utensils used in connection with the sanctuary. These utensils included such items as dishes, pitchers, shovels, bowls, forks, fire holders, extinguishers, snuffers, basins, and cups. X 25 29 30 39 27 3 19 37 16 23 38 3 1 Chi 7 40-50 2 ch 4 11-22 Being used for a sacred purpose, these utensils were holy. 1 Chi 8 4 Accordingly, since the Jews who left Babylon in 537 BCE were privileged to carry with them the sacred utensils that King Nebuchadnezzar had taken from Jerusalem, they had to keep themselves textoi acute miritra longo. Uzi 1145 Utai 1. Apostexilic resident of Jerusalem. Descendant of Judah through Perez. 1 ch 9. 3, 4. 2. Head of a paternal house among the sons of Bive, who came with Ezra to Jerusalem in 468 BCE as rate. 1, 14. Uz. 1. A son of Aram and great-grandson of Noah through Shem. Ge 10. 22, 23. 1 ch 1. 17. 2. Firstborn son of Nahor and Milcah, nephew of Abraham. GE 22. 20, 21. 3. Son of Dishon and descendant of Zer the Horite. GE 36. 20, 21, 28. 4. Homeland of Job 1. 1. Settled by Uz, but it cannot be stated with certainty whether that Uz was Aram's son or Nahor's son. GE 10. 22, 23. 22. 20, 21. Its exact location is unknown. Uz seemingly was near Edom, allowing for a later extension of Edomite domain into Uz, or for some later Edomites to be dwelling in the land of Uz, as is indicated at Lamentations 4. 21. Jeremiah was commissioned to pass the cup of God's wrath to all the kings of the land of Uz, and the immediate context includes references to Philistia, Edom, Moab, and Ammon. J 25. 15, 17, 20, 21. Job's homeland was vulnerable to attack by Sabaeans from the S and Chaldeans from the E. Job 1. 15, 17. Taken together, these factors would indicate a location near the Promised Land and near Edom, somewhere in Arabia. Use a shortened form of Azaniah. A man whose son Palal helped Nehemiah to rebuild Jerusalem's wall. Ne 3. 25. Uzal. 1. The sixth named of Joktan's 13 sons, and also the tribe descended from him. GE 10. 26-29. 1 ch 1. 21. According to Arabian tradition, Sainte, capital of the Republic of Yemen, was anciently called Azal and was connected with Uzal. 2. A place referred to in connection with Tyre's traders, at Ezekiel 27. 19. A suggested identification is the region Azala, in Ne Syria, near the upper Tigris River. Uz is possibly a shortened form of Uzza, meaning my strength is Jehovah. 1. A Benjamite. 1 ch 8. 1, 7. 2. A name connected with a garden. Kings Manasseh and Amon of Judah were buried in the garden of Uzzah instead of the usual royal burial places. 2 Chi 21. 18, 23, 26. Neither Uzzah nor the garden are otherwise known. Since persons were buried there, the place could not have been in the temple grounds, and since the royal palace adjoined the temple, the house of Manasseh in the garden of Uzzah may have been a summer residence. 3. Head of a family of Nethinim, some of whom returned to Jerusalem with Zerubbabel in 537 BCE as 2. 1, 2, 43, 49. Ne 7. 51. Uzzah is possibly a shortened form of Uzzah, meaning my strength is Jehovah. 1. A Merarite Levite. 1 ch 6. 29. 2. A son of Abinadab, undoubtedly a Levite. Uzzah and his brother Ahir led a wagon carrying the Ark of the Covenant from their house when David wanted it brought to Jerusalem. When the bulls pulling the wagon nearly caused an upset, Uzzah reached out and grabbed hold to steady the ark, for which Jehovah struck him dead on the spot. David named the place Perez Uzzah because there Jehovah had broken through in the rupture against Uzzah. 2 6. 3-8. 1 ch 13. 7-11. Notwithstanding Uzzah's presumably good intentions to prevent the ark from falling, it was judged as an irreverent act. 2 6. 7. This was because deliberate disobedience was involved. Jehovah had instructed that under no circumstances was the ark to be touched by unauthorized persons, a warning of public knowledge that carried with it the death penalty for violators. New 4. 15, 19, 20 had authorized ones, Kohathite Levites, carried it with the poles on their shoulders as God had directed, God's anger would not have been incurred. X 25. 13, 14. New 7. 9. Uzan She'era Zen She Middle. Ra possibly, ear of She'era. A city that She'era, an Ephraimite woman, built. In what sense she built is not stated. Perhaps this was in the sense of her contributing in some major way to the progress and development of it as well as other places listed. 1 ch 7. O textoi acute muritra longo. Uzziah 1146-5. Overseer of the Levites in Jerusalem sometime after the exile. Descendant of Asaph. NE 11. 22. 6. Head of the priestly paternal house of Judea during the time of High Priest Jeshua's successor Joachim. NE 12. 1, 12, 19 possibly identical with no. 7. 7. A priest positioned with Nehemiah at the temple for the inauguration of Jerusalem's rebuilt wall. NE 12. 27, 40-42 perhaps the same person as no. 6. Uzziah's middle. Zia shortened form of Uzziah. A mighty man in David's forces. Uzziah was an Ashtorethite, that is, probably from the town of Ashtaroth of the Jordan. 1 ch 11. 26, 44. Jos 9. 10. Uzziah's middle. Zia my strength is Jehovah. 1. A Kohathite Levite, son of Uriel. 1 ch 6. 22-24. 2. One whose son Jonathan was an official of King David. 1 ch 27. 25. 3. King of Judah, also called Azariah. The son of Amaziah by his wife Jecholiah, Uzziah is credited with a reign of 52 years 829-778 BCE. During this period Jeroboam II, Zechariah, Shallum, Menahem, Pekahiah, and Pekah ruled in succession over the northern kingdom. 2 Chi 15. 1, 2, 8, 10, 13, 14, 17, 23, 25, 27. 2 ch 26. 3 The prophets Isaiah 1. 1. 6. 1 Hosea 1. 1 Amos 1. 1 and perhaps Joel were contemporaries of Uzziah. This king's reign witnessed an unusually great earthquake. Zech 14. 5. After the death of his father, 16-year-old Uzziah was made king by the people of Judah. 2 Chi 14. 21. 2 ch 26. 1 according to 2 Kings 15. 1, however, Uzziah became king in the 27th year of Israelite King Jeroboam II. As this would place the beginning of Uzziah's rule approximately 12 years after the death of his father, this must refer to his becoming king in a special sense. It may be that in the 27th year of King Jeroboam, the two-tribe Judean kingdom was freed from subjection to the northern kingdom, a subjection that perhaps began when Israelite King Jehoshaphat defeated Uzziah's father Amaziah. 2 ch 25. 22-24 So it may be that Uzziah became king a second time in the sense of being free from the domination of Israelite King Jeroboam II. Uzziah did what was upright in Jehovah's eyes. This was largely because he heeded the good instruction of a certain Zechariah, not the prophet by that name, who lived in a later period. But his subjects continued improper sacrificing at high places. 2 Chi 15. 3, 4. 2 ch 26. 4, 5. Uzziah became famous for his military successes, attained with Jehovah's help. He restored Elathioth to the kingdom of Judah and rebuilt that city located at the head of the Gulf of the Kaaba. He warred successfully against the Philistines, breaking through the walls of Gath, Jabneh, and Ashdod, after which he built cities in the territory of Ashdod. Uzziah gained victories over the Arabians and Munim, and he made the Ammonites tributaries to Judah. His powerful, well-equipped fighting force came to consist of 307,500 men under the control of 2,600 heads of paternal houses. Uzziah strengthened the fortifications of Jerusalem and built engines of war there. 2 Chi 14. 22. 2 ch 26. 2, 6-9, 11-15. This king also had great interest in agriculture and raising livestock. Uzziah hewed out many cisterns to provide an ample water supply for the livestock and erected towers in the wilderness, likely to protect the grazing herds and flocks from marauders. Farming and vine dressing operations were carried on under his direction in the mountains and in Carmel. 2 ch 26. 10. It appears that Uzziah's brilliant successes resulted in his becoming haughty to the point of invading the holy compartment of the temple to burn incense. High priest Azariah, accompanied by 80 under-priests, immediately followed the king into the temple and censured him for this unlawful act, urging him to leave the sanctuary. With the censer for burning incense in his hand and raging against the priests, Uzziah was miraculously stricken with leprosy in his forehead, whereupon the priests excitedly ushered him out of the temple. As an unclean o textui acute miritra longo, Valley 1147 foreign wives in compliance with Ezra's exhortation. As 10, 11, 21, 44. 5. A descendant of Judah through Perez, whose son Athaiah is listed among the residents of Jerusalem in Nehemiah's time. NE 11. 4. Uzziah middle. El God is strength. 1. Last named of Kohath's 4 sons. Grandson of Levi. Uncle of Moses and Aaron. Uzziah's 3 sons, Mishael, Elizaphan, and Sithri, became heads of tribal families in Levi. X 6. 16, 18, 20, 22. La 10. 4. U 3. 19, 30. 1 ch 6. 2, 18. 23. 12. See Uzzielites. 2. Family head in the tribe of Benjamin. Son or descendant of Bela. 1 ch 7. 6, 7. 3. Levite musician of the family of Heman, appointed to head David's 11th musical service division. Also called Azarel. 1 ch 25. 1, 4, 18. 4. Levite descendant of Jeduthun who helped dispose of the unclean objects removed from the temple at the beginning of Hezekiah's reign. 2 ch 29. 12, 14, 16. 5. One of 4 Simeonite sons of Ishi who led 500 men into Mount Seir to wipe out the remnant of Amalekites and take up living there. A contemporary of Hezekiah. 1 ch 4. 41-43. 6. A goldsmith who helped repair Jerusalem's wall under Nehemiah's direction. Son of Harhiah. NE 3. 8. Uzzielites as middle.ites of belonging to Uzziel. Levite descendants of Kohath's 4th son Uzziel. U 3. 19, 27. They camped to the east of the tabernacle, and one of the Uzzielites, Elizaphan, was chieftain of all the Kohathites. U 3. 29, 30. 112 Uzzielites under Aminadab accompanied the Ark of the Covenant when David had it brought to Jerusalem. 1 ch 15. 3, 4, 10 Uzzielites were further involved in David's organization of temple service. 1 ch 23. 6, 20. 24. 24. 26. 23, 24. Vahib. Apparently a now unknown place near the Arnon, in Sapar. New 21. 14. Visave middle.zitha. One of Haman's 10 sons. As 9. 9, 10. Valley. A depression between bluffs, hills, or mountains. Jehovah God is properly credited with the development of Earth's topographical features, including its many valleys. PS 104. 8 in Scripture, some were called merely valleys. Jos 8. 11. 1 to 13. 18 others were valley plains, low-lying level areas between mountains and hills. 11. 11. Sea plain. There were also torrent valleys, sometimes having perennial streams, but often flowing with water only in the rainy season. 8. 7. Sea torrent valley. Certain translations use vale or valleys where the references are to low plain SGE 14. 3. 1 ch 12. 15, and vale or lowland S for the Shephelah, the hilly lowland between the Philistine coastal plain and the highlands of central Palestine. 1. 7. 1 Chi 10. 27. Among the notable valleys mentioned in the scriptures are the valley of Moab in front of Beth Peada 3. 29. 34. 6 in the Valley of Salt 2 so 8. 13, as well as those of Hinnomany 11. 30, Yiptaoljos 19. 14, Spoim 1 so 13. 18, and Zaphathar 2 ch 14. 10. The valley plains of scriptural record include those of Shinar G 11. 2, Jericho 34. 3, Mizpeh 11. 8, Lebanon 12. 7, Ono 6. 2, and Megiddo 2 ch 35. 22. Zek 12. 11. Figurative and prophetic use. A dark valley, a ravine, with pitfalls and wild beasts would be perilous to a flock, especially at night, were it not for the care of a good shepherd. Though similarly faced with the threat of various calamities, David was secure in the knowledge that Jehovah was his shepherd. Therefore, he could declare, "Even though I walk in the valley of deep shadow, I fear nothing bad." PS 23. 1, 4. The pronouncement of the Valley of the Vision evidently relates to ancient Jerusalem. Though at considerable elevation, the city is like a valley in being surrounded by high mountains. Issa 22. 1, 5. Evidently by clearing out all obstacles that stood in the way of the return of his people from the Babylonian exile, Jehovah, in effect, raised up every valley, leveled hills and mountains, and made rugged Otex to acute Miritra Longo. Valley Gate 1148 Valley Gate. Sea Gate, Gateway. Valley of Hinnom. Sea Hinnom, Valley of. Valley Plain. Sea Plain. Vani of Amidal.nir. Post-exilic son of Bani. He and numerous other persons had married foreign wives, but dismissed them at Ezra's admonition. Ez 10. 10, 11, 34, 36, 44. Vapor. Sea mist. Vashti Vashti. The queen of Ahasuerus I the king of Persia. In the 3rd year of his reign, Ahasuerus called in all the nobles, princes, and servants from the jurisdictional districts. At the end of the conference, he held a 7-day banquet. Similarly, Vashti held a banquet for the women at the royal house. On the 7th day, Ahasuerus ordered his court officials to bring in Vashti in royal headdress, that all might see her loveliness. It seems that the queen would ordinarily eat meals at the king's table, but history does not give proof of this as being the case at great banquets. Besides, at the time, Vashti was holding a banquet with the women. For some unstated reason, Vashti persistently refused. Ahasuerus turned to his wise men who knew the law, and he was advised by Memucan, a prince, that it was not the king alone that Vashti had wronged but also all the princes and people in the jurisdictional districts. He said that when the princesses should hear what the queen had done, which news would quickly be spread in the castle, they would follow Vashti's action as a precedent for contemptuous action on their own part. As 1. 1-22 Vashti was deposed, and about 4 years later, Esther the Jewess was selected to become the wife of Ahasuerus and to take the royal office of Vashti. As 2. 1-17. VAT. See Press. Dan v. Dan. One of the places with which Tyre had commercial intercourse. As 27. 19 Its exact location is uncertain. However, it has been tentatively identified with Wadden near Medina, near the middle of the western side of the Arabian Peninsula. Vegetation. Plants in general. On the 3rd creative day, God caused the earth to bring forth vegetation bearing seed according to its kind. Thus it was able to reproduce. Ge 1. 11-13 Genesis 2. 5, 6 apparently describes conditions on that day just after God made dry land appear but before the production of grass, seed-bearing vegetation, and fruit-bearing trees. To supply needed moisture for coming plant life, Jehovah provided that mist should regularly rise from the earth to water the ground. It kept vegetation flourishing earthwide, even though there was then no rain. Although the luminaries in the heavens did not become clearly discernible in the expanse until the 4th creative day Ge 1. 14-16, an ample amount of diffused light was evidently available by the 3rd day to foster the growth of vegetation. See Ge 1. 14, Ro, FTN. God gave green vegetation to man and the animals as part of their original food supply, later expanding mankind's diet to include meat from which the blood had been drained. Ge 1. 29, 30. 9. 3. For sinful man was compelled to toil for the vegetation he ate. Ge 3. 18, 19. But Jehovah remained the provider of it for man and beast alike, for he is the provider of the sunshine and rain essential to its growth. PS 104. 14. 106. 20. Mic 5. 7. Zik 10. 1. Hope 6. 7. Compared to 32. 2. Growth of vegetation can be controlled by God according to his purpose. He assured the Israelites that their obedience would be rewarded with rain and vegetation for their domestic animals. 11. 13-15 However, if they abandoned their covenant with God, he would make their land devoid of vegetation. 29. 22-25. Compare Isra 42. 15. J 12. 4. 14. 6. One blow from Jehovah against ancient Egypt consisted of hail that struck all sorts of vegetation. In another God-sent blow, locusts devoured all the vegetation the hail had left. X 9. 22, 25. 10. 12, 15. PS 105. 34, 35. Compare M 7. 1-3. Figurative use. During the Palestinian dry season, vegetation, when subjected to the scorching Otextoi acute Muritra longo, vengeance 1149 like vegetation, they are not flourishing because of God's blessing, but are in line to be annihilated forever. PS 92. 7. In the scriptures, trees at times represent those who are prominent and lofty. Compare Is 31. 2-14, whereas the lowly vegetation, like the bramble, grass, or rushes, can represent people generally. Compare JG 9. 8-15. 2 Chi 14. 8-10. Issa 19. 15. 40. 6, 7. This aids in understanding the significance of Revelation 8. 7, which speaks of the burning up of a third of the trees and all the green vegetation. Veil. See address. Vengeance. Infliction of punishment in return for an injury or offense. Retributive action. The Greek word ekmiddle.di-middle.ko, rendered avenge, literally means from justice, suggesting that the action represents justice achieved. As used in the Bible, vengeance usually applies to retribution paid by God in behalf of justice, but it may also refer to a person's executing that which he may view as just or as equalizing matters to his own satisfaction. Belongs to Jehovah. Unless a person is qualified as executioner of vengeance by appointment of Jehovah, or by being designated as such by his word, he does wrong if he attempts to avenge himself or others. Vengeance is mine, and retribution, says Jehovah. 32. 35 God is addressed by the psalmist. O God of acts of vengeance, Jehovah. PS 94. 1 Accordingly, the individual is condemned by God if he bears a grudge or seeks personal vengeance for real or fancy wrongs done to himself or to someone else. 19. 18. Row 12. 19. Heb 10. 30. The scriptures point out that God's anger rests upon all sinners and transgressors, and that only through God's undeserved kindness in providing the ransom sacrifice of Jesus Christ is there a basis for mitigating or withholding the full retributive justice against the sinner. Row 5. 19-21. 2 Co 5. 19. Heb 2. 2, 3. See ransom. God acts in full harmony with his righteousness when thus forgiving sin, and he is also righteous in bringing judgment upon sinners who reject his provision. Such cannot escape divine vengeance. Row 3. 3-6, 25, 26. Compare PS 99. 8. Jehovah's vengeance has a purpose. Jehovah's vengeance brings relief and benefit when he acts in behalf of those who trust in him. Additionally, it procures praise to him as the just judge. The psalmist says, "The righteous one will rejoice because he has beheld the vengeance." And mankind will say, "Surely there is fruitage for the righteous one. Surely there exists a God that is judging in the earth." PS 58. 10:11 Therefore, the primary purpose for God's taking vengeance is to uphold his sovereignty and glorify his own name. X 14:18. PS 83. 13-18. Isla 25. 1-5. Es 25. 14:17. 38. 23 His action also vindicates his servants as being truly his representatives and delivers them from undesirable circumstances. X 14. 31. 15. 11-16. Es 37. 16, 21-23. PS 135. 14. 148. 14. PR 21. 18. A fixed time for God's vengeance. The scriptures indicate that God has a due time for large-scale expressions of his vengeance upon his enemies. The prophet Isaiah was commissioned to proclaim the day of vengeance on the part of our God. God's vengeance was expressed against ancient Babylon, the oppressor of his people, when the armies of Medo-Persia were used to break their power in 539 BCE to 61. 1, 2. 13. 1, 6, 9, 17 Jesus Christ, when on earth, quoted part of Isaiah's prophecy 61. 1, 2 and applied it to himself. 4. 16-21 Though the record does not say that he quoted the part concerning the day of vengeance, in actuality he did proclaim that day, which came upon Jerusalem in 70 CE. Jesus foretold the encampment by armies of the Romans around the city, telling his followers to flee from Jerusalem when they saw this, because these are days for meting out justice, days of vengeance, that all the things written may be fulfilled. Luke 21. 20-22, int. Compare at KJ, Ro, RS. Jesus o texto e acute miritra longo, vengeance 1150 and true, are you refraining from judging and avenging our blood upon those who dwell on the earth? The answer they received shows that there is a definite time for the vengeance to be carried out, namely, when the number would be filled also of their fellow slaves and their brothers who were about to be killed as they also had been. Re 6. 9-11. The scriptures reveal that this execution of vengeance begins on Babylon the Great, then proceeds to come upon the wild beast and the kings of the earth and their armies. Re 19. 1, 2, 19-21. Appointed executioners. The Lord Jesus Christ is God's chief executioner of vengeance. The Apostle Paul comforts Christians with the words, "It is righteous on God's part to repay tribulation to those who make tribulation for you, but, to you who suffer tribulation, relief along with us at the revelation of the Lord Jesus from heaven with his powerful angels in a flaming fire, as he brings vengeance upon those who do not know God and those who do not obey the good news about our Lord Jesus. These very ones will undergo the judicial punishment of everlasting destruction from before the Lord and from the glory of his strength." 2th 6-9. In the Christian congregation, the apostles were appointed under Jesus Christ to care for the Christian congregation and to protect it from uncleanness and loss of Jehovah's favor. In harmony with his God-given authority, the apostle Paul wrote to the congregation at Corinth, which was experiencing divisions and troubles from false apostles. "We're holding ourselves in readiness to inflict punishment for to avenge every disobedience." 2 Co 10. 6, int. 11. 13. 13. 10. Older men appointed to care for the congregation were authorized to carry out vengeance to the extent that they could take steps to bring about justice and to re-establish the congregation in righteousness before God, by correcting the wrong that has been done. This the governing members of the Corinthian congregation did, after Paul corrected them, and thus Paul wrote in his second letter to them. What a great earnestness it produced in you! Yes, righting of the wrong vengeance. These men showed godly repentance after Paul's first letter and cleared out the wicked man therein referred to, doing all they could to right matters before Jehovah. 2 Co 7. 8-12, int however, those men